Hello, welcome to the Football Shirt Social. I'm Sai. Obviously, Tony's not here this week, but I am joined by a fantastic guest this week. I'm joined by Alex Ireland. He's the author of Pretty Polly, A History of Football Shirts. Have I got the title right, Alex? Is that?
Yeah,
I think
spot on,
that's
yeah.
quite right. um, Welcome, and thank you for joining me. Everyone's got to bear with me this week as we obviously haven't got Tony. But Alex, I don't know, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself and your involvement with football shirts?
Yes, I've collected football shirts probably about 20 years or so. And about 4 or 5 years ago, started writing different magazines, articles about different parts of the football kit. And then a couple of years ago, started writing a book, The History of the Football Shirt. So it covers how the things evolved over the last 150 years and how all the different bits, the name sets, the sponsors, the designs, etc., have kind of evolved and why they've done it, what sort of financial, political things have made them happen.
Actually, I was just thinking about it's a perfect time to actually do this episode because Christmas is coming up, and people might want to get a Christmas gift, and that's that. If people you don't want to ask people for a football shirt, you could ask them for a book on football shirts. So yeah, it's really interesting stuff. Like when we got in touch, and you mentioned you were like a football shirt historian, and like I hadn't imagined. I mean, I work in history, and I hadn't imagined that like even I guess I know what you can have a history of anything really specific, but a history of football shirts, and when you start to think about it, there's actually quite a lot going on. But I'm going to ask you about you first. So actually, I'm going to ask you what you're wearing. I've always this is why we normally have Tony do this. I'm going to ask you what you're wearing. So if you want to show off the shirt you're wearing today and tell us a bit about it.
Yeah, so this is a Bochum shirt from the late 1990s. So I probably can't show you all of it, but it's very, very distinctive. So it came around because Faber, who were um, the manufacturers, they were actually the sponsor. So they're a company who were the equivalent of Camelot in the UK. They actually made and ran the national lottery. And they were the shirt sponsor, and they had this rainbow circle logo, but they weren't content with that. They didn't feel that was enough kind of bang for their buck. So they actually made a factory and a whole clothing company and made the shirts so that they could make them in this rainbow sort of design so it would better represent their logo. So pretty dramatic way to sponsor a football team, but this is the end result is a very colourful kind of rainbow monstrosity.
So they didn't just sponsor the shirt. They went and made the whole shirt and manufactured it and everything. I mean, it's some bright colours, isn't
Exactly.
it?
Yeah.
Do you know what year it is? Is it
Yes,
late
it's
90s?
97, 99. So actually, they're
97,
in the
99.
UEFA Cup. I think the
Yeah, they were
first
good
year.
then.
So it was came to people's attention kind of on the continent. So there were three shirts. So each one had the kind of rainbow down this side. So it goes all the way to sort of to the bottom of the shirt in these big stripes. And then you have the blue is the traditional home shirt on this half. And then there was a white away, which I've got, and a red third shirt, which I've not yet quite grabbed.
I'll see if I can grab a picture of them very quickly. Oh yeah, here we go. So
Some
just to
pretty
show a bit.
cool, images.
Yeah.
And the shorts to match, if you manage to spot one, rainbow trim on the shorts.
Oh yeah, we could just see it there on that sticker. The rainbow trim on the shorts. So it's white with the rainbow on the side, and then so you've got which one? You're wearing this one, right? This is the one.
Yes, that's the home. So normally it would be a very sober blue shirt, and then just for 2 years, it's gone pretty crazy.
Yeah, I have one somewhere close by, but I can't see it right now. Yeah, there it is. I can see it right here. This is I think this is from 2016 or something. This is like a.
Yeah.
There we go. So that would be like a normal one. It doesn't always have the white trimmed, the white sides, but just generally plain blue. But even that, I can see it's even got. I don't know if I can't see it on your camera version, but I think on this one you can just about see they've even got the logo sublimated in the shirt, like inside the writing. That's really cool. Like, I mean, that's like a unique piece of history there. Really strange shirt as well. Very bright. I don't think you'd get to see many teams going for shirts like that now, other than that Hummel design this year, which they did for the LGBT one, which was like the vertical stripes in the Denmark 82 one, which we spoke about on last week's show. 86, sorry, not 82, 86. But yeah, that's strange. I wonder, Now it says Lotto. You got me wondering whether Lotto was also a lottery brand. You know, the manufacturer Lotto,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but they probably weren't. They're probably just an Italian shirt manufacturer. I believe Bochum are in the second tier now. They've fallen on harder times. Um, they certainly used to be a much stronger team.
I think second tier or so is usually their position. Quite a small club, but occasionally they've popped up into the Bundesliga. Yeah.
Yeah, the collar's really interesting. What's next to the? Is that the Lotto logo next to the
So that's kind of the logo is this circular rainbow,
rainbow?
and then Faber is the kind of word mark. So again, I'm sure it's all in the sponsor bit at the bottom. Yeah, the Lotto service.
Interesting. The badge looks really thick. Is it like a? I don't know if on your one is it like a?
It's all really thick. Apparently, the players all had to wear like tape all over their nipples. It was an absolutely
Oh.
horrendous shirt to wear in person. So
I mean, some of
yeah,
those
I don't
'90s
play
ones
football in
are. Yeah, I mean, maybe we'll talk a little bit about shirt material. I don't know if we get the time, we can speak about it. But like some of the '90s shirts, the material, and you go wear them now, and it's horrible. Some of them are really comfy, held up really well, and some of them you feel like you're going to get static shock every time you touch the thing.
Absolutely.
Uh, but like big thick ones like that are really useful this time of year. So you can keep the heating down and the heating bills lower. I'm also wearing so this one's a more recent shirt, but it's a team that's fallen on harder times. So it's Vitória Setúbal, which is a Portuguese team. But this is their 110-year shirt. So I think, 2020. So 1910 was their original shirt. And this is like a remake of their original shirt in a way. So it's got like a very old style design with the collar, the thicker stripes. You know, the shape of it is like the older shirts, but remade for like in a modern style. So it's like I mean, it's a 110-year remake, and they used to be in Europe quite a lot, but right now they're down in the fourth tier of Portuguese football because they were kind of unfortunate. They got a, I think it was financial penalty or registration penalty, and they got moved down to the third tier. And then the third tier was split in Portugal at the time. They got promoted, but then they merged the divisions, so they never got them. They never got promoted. Um, they kept them in
When
the.
you look's not in,
They
your
stayed
look's
in the
not
third
in.
year. No, and then they got relegated the year later. So the year they got promoted, they would have gone up to the second tier. They decided to merge the third tiers, and then the year after that, they got relegated down to the fourth tier. So yeah, they're struggling. Their 110 years wasn't so great. They're struggling a little bit, but they did have some nice shirts during this period. But certainly back I think in the early 2000s, even they were in Europe, maybe even in the Champions League, where they've been struggling. Okay, so I'm going to ask you, like, where did you said you've been collecting football shirts for 20 years, which is probably longer than most of us. So what was like your first shirt, or where did you start collecting shirts?
Yeah, so maybe that's a bit dramatic there. I think I really didn't realise there was a important caveat. Is I didn't realise there was a thing a thing such as a football shirt collector until about 5 years ago. You know, it wasn't a kind of conscious activity. It's just you see a player in particular that you want to emulate. You want to go and do that on the fives pitch, whether it's Edgar Davids or somebody like that, or a particular team like Valencia, Mendieta, really impressed by them, and you want to do a really terrible impression of that down the local power league. And so you buy one, you buy another one, and before you know it, there's polyester all over the
Yeah,
place.
you end up with loads. Yeah. What would you think was like the early, or you don't have to say the first one, but like what were some early highlights that you went out and got?
So, being a Manchester United fan from Manchester, there's a lot of Umbro United shirts in. A couple I still have from the 90s, and then AC Milan. There's a 96, 97 shirt I got at the time that's still knocking around. A couple of Borussia Dortmund from around that time. Yeah, Valencia around 2000. Brazil 98. A couple of England
Oh,
shirts, things
yeah,
like that. So yeah,
yeah.
you
Yeah,
knocking around.
we've been speaking about the AC Milan '96 and the Brazil '98 quite a lot. So and I think the Man United one, because I actually won a Beckham shirt the other week, and it was a 2002 Beckham shirt, so that's quite nice. So I showed that last week, but yeah, there's some really interesting shirts in there. Like, I mean, so I mean, that's unusual that you already had an idea that you wanted to get shirts from like around Europe and different places. Like some people, they often just start with their own team. They get a few for their own team, maybe their national team. Did you like? Was it where you went on holiday, or where you just like the players from, or?
I was just a big football hipster before football hipsters. I think I used to, from about 95 or so. So I was born in 83. So about 95, 96, I used to get World Soccer, which is like, yeah, kind of news for football across the world, and you watch Trans World Sport, and then I got into
Oh yes, of
Championship
course.
Manager, and many of us, like you, that's kind of the conduit to learn about all these players from across the world, and so all those things together meant, it's really fascinated because like nowadays as a Premier League fan, it's very cosmopolitan. You have like Brazilian, Argentinian players, people from all over the world. It really wasn't like that. The start of 92, 93, my first game at Old Trafford was 93. You had a few Scandinavians, and that was pretty much it. It was very like parochial. And then you see like Football Italia, and there's, Batistuta, the Argentinian, and Ronaldo, the Brazilian, and it just seemed kind of a lot more glamorous than Bradford away on a Wednesday night sort of thing.
Yeah, there were hardly any South Americans in English football up until about 2000, I'd imagine. I don't know when the first ones would have arrived. Probably a couple at Arsenal and maybe someone like, I don't know, even know at Manchester United, thinking about it, who the first ones would have been.
So Veron probably. Trying to think of anybody
Yeah,
earlier than
there's Juan
him.
Sebastian Veron. There might was there. I think there might have been another Argentinian defender, but no, I can't remember now.
So
But
Anchor
yeah,
was, yeah, not a million miles away from that. Yeah,
yeah. So like, yeah, certainly, yeah, they would always show up on Football Italia, which was always live. Was it Channel 4 very early morning, which is
yeah, yeah, yeah.
always popular. You get to see some great players, and then when the World Cup rolled around, you'd know all about them. Which was, or the Euros rolled around, you'd know all about them. So that was always fantastic. Yeah, I think that's interesting because like a lot of people, you mentioned Championship Manager. Obviously, it's a shame Tony's not here because that's his very much both of our fortes. But
Yeah.
like, I think that's sort of what got us into football shirts is we develop an affinity for a team that we're playing as or players that we're seeing in the game. And we think, oh, I'm gonna like. I think that's what started us off. We're like, I'm gonna get a shirt for the save that I'm currently playing, and wear that while I'm playing it. And then, 1 year that's okay, but when you do that 5 years in a row, you've suddenly started a shirt collection, and that's sort of
Exactly.
what's kicked us off. And now we just get to see, and we find out there's this world of ones that we like and retro ones that we have nostalgia for. Maybe one or two that we've held on to. I've got a Brazil 2002 or something. You just like gradually build up from there. All right, so what would you say is your favorite shirt that you currently? How many shirts have you got? I'm curious. Is it too scary? Is it a number you don't want to say? I don't
No,
like
I
saying my
think
number.
in the I did focus the collection a couple of years ago to only be 90s long sleeve club shirts and not any teams other than United from England. So I think of that as probably about 90 or something like that. It's not like one of these mega hundreds of shirt collections. And then there's just odds and sods, which is probably another 150, something like that. But I got rid of loads over lockdown because they were just honestly like spilling out of cupboards and drawers everywhere all over the house, and it got a bit out of control. So it's
It
been
does.
tamed a little bit.
I've spent this week writing up a list of the ones I'm going to sell and get rid of because I think like I started to forget what I had and what I owned. And so I've sorted them all by league. And now like anything that I'm not finding interesting has gone into the sale pile. So a lot of training, like very plain training shirts and stuff
Yeah,
that I picked up cheap because I thought, it's not too expensive. I'll grab it. Or there's a few others that I've thrown in there as well. But it's like, yeah, I'm only going to keep the ones that I think are actually like mean something now. I really like how you've specialized that. So 90s long sleeve. What's made you decide for 90s long sleeve shirts?
I was a kid growing up in the 90s. I think for most people, that's always the golden generation, isn't it? It's like you listen to people who are a bit older than me, then there's nothing better than 70s or 80s shirts. That was when the whole thing peaked. So I'm exactly the same. And then I really like long sleeve shirts. I think it's half a shirt, really, if it's short sleeves. Um, and it just makes it easy. I think there's so much temptation out there to get, the newest shirt, and they're so expensive as well when they first come out, that it kind of made it a bit more manageable, that there were only a finite number I could get. And I also knew most of them would be really tough. So it wouldn't be like I would be picking a shirt up every week, which I think is the temptation when you see how many nice ones come out all the time.
Yeah, definitely. I'm like looking at classic football shirts on their advent deal every day at the minute. I'm like, is there anything for me today? And I really ought to like narrow it down and just say, right, I'm only going to get I'm only going to focus on this. I think my idea might be I might have to focus on Mexican shirts because there's quite a lot of nice Mexican shirts. And I think that's probably the league I've got the most of now. So that might have to be the direction I go if I do special, narrow it down. And yeah, I mean, so you've managed to narrow it down to mostly non-UK of the Manchester United long sleeve 90s shirts. Do you have a favorite among them?
Yes, so it's the shirt that was never actually worn on the pitch. So it's a Borussia Dortmund Cup away shirt from 96, 97. So the year that they won the Champions League. So they never wore it, but it's this beautiful white with black details, and then just little hints of that highlighty yellow neon colour. So yeah, those ones
Is it this one?
top left. Yes. And
That's
obviously
is that
in
the
long
short
sleeve.
sleeve and that's the long
Yes,
sleeve.
that's a short sleeve. Yeah, yeah. And
Let's open this
but
in
yeah,
now.
it's just so cool. I'm really lucky. I found it in Italy, and they're an absolute pain to track down. And so, yeah, by far my favourite.
It's got some really nice detail. It's got the badge behind it as well. It is very 90s. A label on the outside there. Um, yeah, I imagine that was hard because was it? You say it was it released or did they sell it?
So, yeah, they did it. I think they did it commercially, but I think it was only. I'm sure that they did it commercially, but obviously it's never worn on the pitch, and so they're not impossible. I would see on eBay you see maybe one, maybe two a year come up in the UK, so they're not a proper rare one, but yeah, they're not kind of one that pops up every week.
I mean, I really like that. That's a nice shirt. Like I know Dortmund 90 shirts are very popular. I guess the good thing about this one as well is with the badges are sewn on, and the continental sponsorships in the shirt, so you're not going to, none of this is going to go with time as well. So it should keep in pretty good condition,
Absolutely,
I imagine.
and they are indestructible, these shirts. So I've got the whole collection now of these. So it was 90 to 98, and I absolutely loved them. So I got all the homes, and then the four aways that were actually commercially released. And like you say, they are just indestructible. There's no like plastic that's going to wear off. And I've worn them for five-a-side. They've scraped up against walls. They've been chucked to the ground, astro burn, and they're really, really kind of resolute.
But even then, they just don't fall apart. I mean, that's like you don't get many shirts now. Today's ones are okay, depending on what they've used to make them. But it's like sometimes, especially with the badges or like even some shirts, they
Yeah,
just fall apart after a couple of washes, um, or a wash. Put a wash accidentally on the wrong heat setting. I imagine you'd be all right with something like this. Even in the wash, you'd probably be okay. You could chuck it through,
yeah.
get muddy in it, chuck it through the wash, and you come out fine the other side. Maybe a little bit discolored or something at worst. But
I
yeah,
think
that, I
the
mean,
only
they're
one is not, sorry, that grey one that you see a couple of in the background. That's the only one that that is printed. So the D
this one.
Continental sponsor. That's the 97, 98 away, and that's printed. And I've got one that's cracking slightly, so I only kind of wheel it out very rarely. But the others, it's all as you say, it's all kind of jacquards and sublimated printing, so it's pretty much bomb proof.
There's a version without the sponsor on there? Is that I think were they not allowed the sponsor in Europe?
So that Simple C was the European version because the D Continental was too big for Europe. So the Just C is the Europe version. I think with that might be a player. It's a
Yeah,
player is
player issue,
player issue.
player issue.
They used to print the sponsor and stuff on the player issue ones. I suppose you've got to have a stock of those in case, I don't know, you change sponsor halfway through the season or something. So if you find one that's got printed sponsor on, then it's probably like a match prepared one.
Oh, interesting. I mean, well, yeah, we won't look at the price of that one. It's not
No,
small.
no,
It's a it's a reasonable price.
I mean, that's a reasonable price for one of those, I think, in a retailer. But yeah,
Oh,
they're
probably, yeah, like 96 to 97 shirt, pretty good condition, and it would have been a player issue. Still available is pretty good. I imagine a lot of these shirts end up in collectors' hands, and then some of them probably never disappear. And there's another one actually down here. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're more of a widely available than I thought. So would you say so that you said that one's your favorite shirt, right? From that
yeah.
period. Have you got any others that you like that hold a fond memory for you, or that you like?
I suppose the
like
United ones,
yeah,
there was a European, same way, there was a European version, the red home that we wore in '99 at Barcelona. So
of
that
course.
had kind of the Champions League logo and bits woven into that. That was pretty cool. I mean, I have pretty good memories of most of the United shirts from the '90s. We're really lucky, we almost every season was successful, and even those that weren't, when Cantona kicked the supporter, that black away shirt was still, brilliant shirt. It's still got upstairs somewhere.
Yeah, that I think that Cantona one's become kind of iconic now. Which year is it? It must be like 96,
94, 95, I think, when Blackburn
95
beat us to
shirt.
the league.
Oh,
Yeah.
is it the year Blackburn one then? Yeah, this one, right?
Yeah.
Not if I search for United, we'll get that one. I think with the
Yeah.
blue on the sleeves. Yeah, yeah, that's nice. So, nice. I like when sometimes when they have these like nice little bits of detail. You get the Umbro on the sleeves, like the color around the collar and across the collar here. Even like Man United FC on the sleeve there. Just here in the sleeve is interesting. You've got all these in long sleeve as well.
Not that the United ones are an exception there. So I think they were only
Oh,
the player versions were in long sleeve. So most of the United ones I've got are all short sleeve.
short sleeve.
So they're one exception I kind of make.
Well, that's fair enough. Do you know? So, what about goalkeeper shirts? Have you got any goalkeeper shirts in there? Or was
Only
it
a
from
couple, yeah. There's a really cool one, a Vitor Bayer shirt from 97, 98 maybe. Uh,
How do you spell it? I don't know. Well,
Vitor,
oh, Vitor, sorry, Vit.
and
Oh,
then Baia.
yeah, like by uh,
And
is
he,
Leverkusen? Is it 1990?
oh no, sorry, no, Vitor Bayer, the goalkeeper. Sorry, so
Oh, sorry.
Bayer,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So uh,
Doesn't want to. Oh, BAIA. Did you say BAI?
Baia, yeah.
Like this. There we go. A Barca.
Yeah. Ah, there it is. Sorry, yeah. So it's that one with that one, yeah. And you can
This one.
see across you may be able to see across the sleeves. It's got Vitor on one sleeve and Bayer on the
Oh yeah, it
other.
has his name.
Um, yeah. So I've got that one, which is really cool. They did one for Rude Hesp as well. Again, Rude and Hesp down the sides. But so I've got that one. That was pretty cool. And then there's a really nice one, which is if you ever look Juventus 96, 97. Maybe there's always a picture of Peruzzi that comes up in it.
Is it this one?
The yellow.
The
So the
yellow one. This
yellow
one.
with yeah. So that's pretty dramatic. So I really like that. There's a cool picture of Peruzzi hanging about somewhere that's in that, and it's the I always forget horse or zebra. So the kind of pattern is a horse's head face.
Yeah, I was just saying you can just about see it coming across it's a really large one, isn't it? I don't know if it's a zebra or a horse, but I don't assume it's a zebra, but I don't know. Maybe that's because I'm just thinking black and white stripes. I think they are horses, aren't they? on the.
I'm sure it's changed at some point. I'm sure when I looked at the badges, there's a zebra at some point and a horse at other bits. But then
Oh,
there's you can just see a couple there. There was an inverse version of that which was never worn. So that was a third shirt. Again, I've got that in long sleeves, which is really really cool. Um, and yeah, again, such a shame with some of these. Like, imagine how cool like Del Piero and Zidane would have looked on pitch in that.
in the goalkeeper shirts, yeah, only the goalkeeper gets to
Yeah.
wear them.
Oh, so this was an outfield. This the black
Oh,
one
this
was
was the
an
out. They did this
outfield.
for the outfield,
Yeah,
did they?
yeah. So
Oh,
this is a third shirt, but they never wore it competitively.
oh,
So yeah, the
interesting.
yellow
I've
was the
actually got a
keeper.
Juventus shirt behind me, but it's a bit later on. 2003 is the one I got behind me. Um, and I've been trying to work out if it was genuine all last night. I was like, is it a genuine one or not? And it's really tough to tell with the older shirts
That's the
because even the
internet thing.
labels. Yeah, well, that's what I try.
Twitter
That's
is
what I try to do
yeah, right.
because the obviously now they have all the manufacturer labels and stuff. And looking online, some of the shirts do, and some of the shirts don't. So it doesn't really help me at all. Um, so yeah, well, I think I think it is. I shirts. If they were fake shirts, then they were normally not quite as good quality as the real ones. They
Yeah.
were pretty. You can normally determine a knockoff one from a real one. All right, so I'm just going to hide all these Juventus shirts for now. I'll ask you. So let's talk a little about the history of shirts. And I mean, we were chatting pre-show a little bit. You were telling me for a long time they were very much the same. I don't know. I mean, maybe you can just tell us a little bit about where football shirts started to evolve into something a bit more unique, and a bit more like more interesting designs, adding elements to them.
Yeah, so we start again. We want to go time travel back 150 years. It's just like a gentleman's shirt that you would wear for work or every day or something like that. And it changes a little bit. It becomes cotton, wool, but really it doesn't change a great deal. Probably until 1950s or so, when you start to get England are embarrassed by Hungary at home in this, and they've got this nice V-neck kind of sleek, more sort of t-shirty thing, and England realise we're probably a bit outdated here, and they start to have Umbro make this Continental, which is kind of much more modern. But even then, even with that, you come to the kind of 1970s, and really it's this sort of fusty long sleeve cotton thing. There's lots of the elements that you think about the shirt now that just weren't part of it. So teams wouldn't wear a crest except for cup finals because it's extra cost of embroidery, and really when you're watching it a game nobody sees it from 70 yards or so away in the stands. So you don't have that. You don't have sponsors really. There's a few kind of scattered around even from the 1910s, but really until the 1970s it wouldn't become a big source of money. But then you start to have TV, and so it becomes a lot more valuable, that rather than 10,000 people seeing it, you've got a few million in the audience. You have numbers from 1930s, but even they took a decade to come in after they first appeared. So the FA are very kind of conservative, very fuddy-duddy about anything sort of new. And then you start to get things like the patches, competition patches. The Football League did it for their centenary in 1988. And then they become ubiquitous. You get the name sets, and then you get things, odd patches, badges, bits and bobs. And suddenly it's the kind of the landscape's pretty full, whereas only 30 years ago it had been just a bare shirt.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like you think about all the different elements that add up to a shirt, and all the things you got. You got your badge, your manufacturer. Then sometimes you got like special, even things like in the collar. Little designs. Your sleeve sponsor, your number on the back, your name on the back. Even just like the fonts and things that they would,
Yeah, yeah,
customizing
yeah,
fonts and the different printing styles they would use for them. Manufacturer labels that we were just talking about. There's quite a lot like that goes into a football shirt that I think maybe now we take a little bit for granted that just wasn't there.
exactly. Yeah,
Even when, well, I was going to say 30 years ago, but it was 50 years ago in the 70s, just reminding us of our age. Like 50 years ago, like it wasn't there. And it's interesting that the game really, for most part of its history, isn't commercialized through its shirts. I mean, what point did they start selling shirts commercially to people?
so Umbro invented the first replica shirt, 1959. It was aimed just at kids, and again, because you didn't have many of these features, it was just a red shirt with white socks and stuff. So they weren't, you kind of know that's United, but they weren't even marketed really, apart from Arsenal's as actually a club shirt. Obviously, you'd know what it was. But Arsenal Umbro kind of missed a trick really because they didn't capitalise on it. And then Admiral in the early 1970s, they realised that really to kind of make it unique, you have to make the design unique, and with help of some copyright laws that they meant they could do that. But you've got to make something that isn't just a red shirt, that has a bit of a design on it, or something that makes it, a Leeds shirt, a Manchester United shirt. That means if you're in the playground, you can't get away with just asking your mum to buy a generic kind of, red cotton shirt. You need that, and that's how it kind of came. Obviously, kids and the power of the playground sort of started first, and then it took a few years, but then sort of maybe in the 1980s, you start to see adults appear in them in as well. And then in the 90s, when football kind of comes out, like the hooligan uh, kind of culture and the being very unpopular in the mid 80s and becomes kind of mainstream again, then you start to see them like really appearing in crowds and in the pub and things like that.
Yeah, I mean that's sort of it. Like if you imagine going to a game 40, 50 years ago, you wouldn't have had the whole crowd wearing the shirt, whereas now most
Yeah,
of the crowd will at least be in like a scarf or some colors of the team, a hat. They're wearing gloves or whatever. I mean, you can buy everything with the logo on now of even like a non-league team. And you think it's weird that these teams didn't have the commercialization. Interesting, you said Admiral were the first ones to sort of commercialize it, because I actually thought Admiral had gone out of business, but they haven't. I saw they released a shirt today, or someone's using their someone's licensing out their brand at least. But like some of the older manufacturers are not the ones that are dominant in the market today. So actually, I mean, I mentioned you've already got one book, which is Pretty Polly, the one that's out, the history of the football shirt, and you're working on another one, which is the Double Diamond. Is that the name of the title? I'm just going off memory.
well remembered. Yeah, yeah,
Okay, okay. Which is 100 years of Umbro, and like I think it's interesting that that some of these manufacturers have changed over time. I was looking at the first year of the Premier League, for example. There's one Adidas shirt, or maybe two Adidas shirts, and zero Nike shirts. And now I think they have 70% of the shirts. Maybe there's a couple of
yeah,
Hummels, and there might be Castore, of course, and maybe Kappa. Although Castore's ones are going anyway. They're going back to Nike. I think all three of them, or at least two of them are, or Adidas. So like the changes in over time of who the main manufacturers are is kind of interesting. Like, are there any like big manufacturers historically that are just not really around anymore?
yeah. Well, there's a couple of things like Bukta were kind of the other big name alongside Umbro, so that if you want to get a shirt really in the 20, 30, 40s, etc. So Bukta were around before Umbro, and then they've been a kind of constant player, but never really capitalized and never built up in the same way that Umbro did. But going to the other side, it took quite a while for Adidas and Nike to want to be involved. So even though Adidas had made football boots and in the 40s, 50s, 60s and so on, they sort of saw themselves as a footwear firm, and actually they partnered with Umbro. So um, Umbro from 1959, 1960 until the mid 80s, they were the official seller of Adidas products in the UK. So it was kind of a really good match that it seemed like, right, you've got your Umbro kit. Everybody who needs an Umbro football kit needs a pair of boots. So it's like the perfect market for us. And on the flip side, Adidas were a footwear firm. We don't care about apparel. So lots of German teams, Borussia Dortmund, even the West Germany side, they would wear Umbro kit because it's no competition to Adidas. So may as well help your mates out and sell a bit more. And then Adidas decide, oh well, actually, there's quite a lot of money in these kits, and they sort of get into it. But really, there wasn't a lot of money in the replica side, obviously, until the 80s, and so Adidas and Nike, not being traditionally like football gear firms or football kit firms, took quite a while. And it was only really in like the 1990s that both of them sort of really pushed into it. Maybe Adidas a bit earlier.
I mean, at what point do they start paying the teams to be the manufacturer? Because that's kind of an interesting arrangement that they're paying the team to be the manufacturer of the shirt, rather than like most things. If you went out, if you owned a business, you would go to the shirt company and you'd
Yeah.
say, "Can you produce our shirts?" Rather than the shirt company coming to you and say, "We'll make your shirts for you. Here's a chunk of money. Just let us keep the X amount of profit." Like that switch is kind of unusual from a business point of view.
Yeah, so I mean, there was no reason really, because what the arrangement in the 40s, 50s, 60s was you'd literally just supply the kit. It's like if you got the United contract, that would mean, well, we have to probably supply, all right, we might get 8 or 10 sets of kit a year or something like that, but it's thousands, a couple of thousands of pounds. It's not a big deal in itself. You know, the good thing about it as a kind of collateral is you can say, which Umbro in particular did, oh, we make the Man United kit, because then the dog and duck, you know, think, well, if it's good enough for United, it's good enough for us. But then when the replica industry comes along, Admiral kind of kick it off by giving Leeds £10,000 to make their kit, and that's when it sort of starts to become that involvement. I mean, there was always kind of brown paper bag, you know, the
Oh
manager
yeah,
gets kind of
okay.
bummed a bit of money for doing it, but it wasn't big sums, and it's only really when when the replica industry kind of comes along that becomes a big thing.
I mean, 10,000 seems small amounts by today's comparisons. I expect it probably is in the multi millions now. Um, is there like a historic manufacturer, or like maybe not a manufacturer, but like a style that you think has gone that maybe is due a resurgence? Because we see every few years we see a resurgence of something. Like maybe, for example, the Hummel kits, the 86 Hummel kits are all in fashion right now. Do you think there's something that's going to roll back around, maybe like 90s goalkeeper style kits, or
Yeah, the problem is that since then, UEFA regulations have become and FIFA regulations have become really kind of prescriptive. So it becomes very difficult to do these like bold designs. So they're basically designed to almost like stamp down on creativity. Like, for example, you remember the Arsenal bruised banana kit that was there away, I think 91 to 93, which is very
yeah?
distinctive and kind of well loved. And they remade that, was it maybe 2018 or so? And if you look at it, it's kind of a faded version of the original. And apparently, they had to kind of go back, the designers, 3 or 4 times to UEFA and sort of do a less dramatic version, until finally UEFA says that's sort of like subtle enough. So I think, yeah, those like mega loud designs are probably, unfortunately, not something we're going to see a lot of. And one of the reasons for that is it's not really commercially viable. People don't buy goalkeeper tops that much. And that's why you see, like, you know, for Liverpool's goalkeeper, for example, will kind of wear like a template kit. They don't put as much effort into that as they do, you know, PSG and whoever. The big clubs will share a template kit generally, because there's not the commercial thing. You don't sell a lot. So they don't make as big an effort as with an away or a third that might sell 500,000, something like that.
Yeah, I remember after the Women's World Cup, they had to specially
Yeah,
produce the
yeah,
Mary
exactly.
Eppes one,
Yeah,
didn't they? Did
yeah,
they release that? I assume they did in the end. I don't know how they did it, but I think they
yeah. They
agreed
released
they were
it
going to
and
make
it sold
some.
out on the day, and
Did it?
I
It
don't
sold
think
out.
it's been back in stock. Yeah, yeah,
Oh wow! So yeah, I mean that's interesting that there was just this demand, also for a women's football shirt. You find women's shirts now; they're going for different designs to the men's shirts, so it's an additional shirt you can get. I really like some of the ones, particularly the last Women's World Cup and the last Euros. There were some really nice designs. I didn't know that UEFA regulate what they can have in their designs, and that I think I've got on screen the one you maybe the one you're on about. Is it this one that I think? That
yes,
Haaland's
yeah,
wearing.
yeah.
Is that
So,
that's
and
sort
you
of
can
like
see the top
this
left
one?
version is the top left, the second one along. Yes, that
Yeah,
one.
this
Sorry,
one.
spot on.
That's the original.
So that's the OG, and then you see it's almost like one that's been in the hot wash 100 times. You know, it's a much more subtle version. So as I understand it, it was a lot more like the original at the start, and then it was like, tone it down, guys, tone it down until you get something that is very, very subtle.
But then, okay, but then I don't understand how they get away with this season's one, which is like very. I mean, I guess they're not in champ. No, they're in. What are they in Europa, right? So no, they're in the Champions League. Sorry, they're in the Champions League. This season's is quite harsh. I don't know if it's because it's harsher lines or there must be some strange. I mean, maybe you know them, but there must be some strange regulations as to what they're allowed and what they're not allowed.
Yeah, it's sort of nature of the graphic, what you can have on it. There's a whole, if you look through, there's pages upon pages in the FIFA and UEFA laws about, the size of what things are permitted, what colours can be permitted. If you have a diagonal shirt, for example, it's got to end on the body. It can't end on the sleeve. Otherwise, if it crosses over into the sleeve, it like teams of like Galatasaray had a kind of split version, and they ended up having to wear a kind of simplified version of it. So lots of teams, even though they've got kind of Nike and Adidas who are very experienced, they kind of run into trouble with these regulations because they are so prescriptive about and often, for example, you'll do a design, and then for the player shirts they'll have to have clear the pattern on the back, because you can't have a pattern across the numbers for kind of visibility and stuff.
Oh, you see, I've been blaming shirt manufacturers for all these things for so long, and now you're telling me it's UEFA. It makes a lot more sense. I mean, River Plate's obviously not UEFA, but like I just drew it up
Yeah,
to like this is
but
actually one of my bugbears when like
FIFA,
you
I
have
think
like that
regulations
stripe and it
are
just
quite
ends
similar.
there,
So
or
again,
like I mean,
so
that's not
they
the stripe isn't the worst,
exactly,
but
yeah.
like
Yeah.
sometimes where they I think you said Galatasaray, right? So let's see if we can find the Galatasaray one from which probably the away kit.
Yeah, try and let's have a look. Yeah, that diagonally split one that was on your first page.
Can I see?
Where was
I'm
it?
being blind. I can't see a diagonal one.
It was on one of them. I don't know where you want to put. Yeah, just diagonal or something into it. See,
Yeah, if I put diagonal.
it was like a Monaco style diagonal
Yeah.
split.
There we go. This one, right? 2021,
Yeah,
22.
and because it crossed over into the shoulder, then I think they had to have the. I think they had to turn the orange sleeve red because they couldn't have different. It was So
Oop. Let's see if we can find. What did I say? It was 2022, 2021, 2021 European. It stops there in the European version.
yeah, so
On
there we
the
go. Yeah. You got to have the other way around. Yeah.
there we go. There's actually a before and after, courtesy of Footy headlines. You can
Mm-hmm.
see it doesn't go on the sleeve. Interesting. It's also like so this season's one. Sorry, last season, the AC Milan was it this season? The AC Milan third kit. I think it's this season even. And like I really like that kit, but if you see like the back of it, it's just plain,
Yeah,
and that might be
yeah,
why.
yeah,
Yeah, like that's the back, right? Like there's nothing.
yeah.
You lose all the design, the nice design that's on the front. That's probably the
It's a
same reason, I'd imagine.
Yeah, exactly. That you've got to have that back panel kind of can't be too complicated, so that you have like legibility, the name and numbers and stuff. But you think in the replica version, it doesn't apply, and you would be it would look a lot nicer, wouldn't it, with that gradient in it?
Yeah, have a player issue version and a non-player issue version. Actually, now I think about it, yeah, even the home kits they can't have the stripes. Even if the text is in white, it doesn't have the stripes on the back of the home kit. Whereas older ones, there's like an older one, I assume. Well, I think that's a fake, but yeah, like the interesting. Now I've got to rethink all my blame that I'm putting on manufacturers for being lazy with the back of shirts or with the sleeves, and
I
think,
mean, they
oh, this
still
is
do a lot
your
of bad things, so that you can probably take a bit back, but not all of it.
Yeah, well, I don't actually. To be fair, to be honest, not always, because it would only apply if they're in European competitions, right? So, like, I think the Palace kit from this year, is it this year's kit? Which I quite like. You know, they do a Palace have been one of the few Premier League clubs that sort of, no, it's not this year's one. It's one of the teams. They had like the top bit's different, and whenever the top bit's different, and like, and it just cuts off another design, it annoys me. But sometimes non-European teams do it. I thought it was Palace, but it's not. Palace is one, or is it? No, it is Palace. I can show you. It is Palace. So yeah, you can see like
Yeah,
they've
yeah,
got the glass window design from Crystal Palace this year, but then just
it's
like the
cool.
sleeve, it stops, right? Like that could have carried on into the sleeve, and I think the back is the same problem with the back. There's nothing on the back, and I quite like that. You know what they did with that. You know,
Yeah,
last year's one was also
yeah,
very
absolutely.
popular. Um, interesting, interesting. So, all right. So what? So let's talk instead about like the. Well, let's talk about those designs. So, at what point did clubs decide to start to create more unique designs to market them? Because obviously, for a long time, it was like this is a Liverpool kit, this is an Arsenal kit. You know, they wanted to be recognizable as the kit of their team. Whereas, like particularly with the away shirt or the third shirt, they could be more adventurous. Like, at what point did they start to really lean into that?
So really, Admiral start this because this need this element of a kit being distinctive. Because why would Arsenal care what about having distinctive kit? You're not going to sell it. It's just a distraction, really. So it's when Admiral come in and start saying, "Well, we have to make this distinctive." And for a start, they did it kind of manually. So there's some of the things like the Coventry. If you look at Coventry brown kit, there's a Coventry shirt, and Wales had one as well that had these like curved tram lines that went down the front. And those understand the kind of pieces were sewn on manually, which is obviously a massive faff. Yeah, so you see, yeah, that gorgeous chocolate brown. So that, as I understand, those were kind of sewed on manually, which is obviously very time consuming. But they start to do things like that, but they're very difficult to do. And then in the 1980s, you start to get a couple of things. So you get a thing called sublimation printing, which you'll be familiar with, this idea that you can print patterns and colours in the fabric. And that makes it easy because you just design it and then you can slap it on, and it's almost as easy as making a plain shirt. And you also have these jacquards, which are the kind of get confused with the sublimation a lot of the time. So they're when the pattern is woven into the fabric. So sometimes it's printed, the ink is printed, and sometimes the design is kind of actually like part of the weave of the fabric. But then you've got two things, because you can like print all the different colors, like that Borussia Dortmund shirt, the white one. It's sublimated, so all those different colors, the black and white bits, are printed, that kind of color pattern, but then you sort of see the bits being kind of weaved, the crest into the shirt in a repeated pattern. So you've got like two tools that allow you to do like two kind of crazy things at once. And once they've got these tools, you can imagine like creatives, designers is like, right, let's go wild. And that's where you have like the late 80s and the 90s is just like, like giving a kid a box of fireworks or something. You just let it all off at once, kind of thing.
Yeah, there's a lot that you could get into a show. I really like like what they can do with some of the subliminated ones. For a while, like sometimes it's just the logo or something goes in, but I think there's certainly some interest, like that Palace one I just showed. Obviously they've done that
Yeah.
on the Palace one. I think the one you've got on now, right, has the logo on the blue side, or on is it on all of it? On
Oh,
the
which
bottom
was
one,
that? Sorry.
the shirt you're wearing.
Oh yeah, so it's got on this one is just this one's just dots, but yeah, it has in the other one, the away, it has the VFL in a kind of
Logo.
repeating pattern, and again, so that's woven, so it's this jacquard rather than kind of being like ink printed pattern into the shirt.
So I didn't realize there were two different ways of doing it. So one way it's like the thread is actually that color, and the other way is like they're printing the colors into the shirt.
So the it's a rite of passage for everybody who's interested in football shirts that you get those mixed up, and then there's one day that
Okay, yeah.
somebody tells you it's like the thing being passed on. But so it's not color of the fabric when it's a weave. It's just that it sort of weaves in a different direction. So when it hits the light, a kind of
Ah,
pattern
the
appears.
shape.
I'm trying to think of good examples, but yeah, if you've got any 90s shirts, often they will have that kind of, again, it's like the direction of the weave. So you sort of make patterns in the fabric, kind of thing. I have to think of, and maybe if we have a look at it like jacquard football shirt or something, I'm sure you'll find some uh, things on Google about
I
it.
think I know
But
what you
yeah,
mean. The one you're wearing is a jacquard one, right? So the
yes.
one
So
obviously.
it's sublimated. So the colours are
Oh.
sublimated. So it's like inks are printed. So the sublimation is about colour, and the jacquard is about the kind of pattern, like the pattern of the fabric. So you think, the way you see these like vapor knits, the player issues, and they have this like pattern within the fabric. That's the jacquard.
Yeah,
Um,
actually, I have got one
or
of
any of the kind of,
those.
those Nike like or Adidas, the player issue versions.
Here we go. So here, this is a player issue Barca training top, and you can see. I don't know if it's gonna. It's probably not going to show up on camera, but it might not show up. You might be able to see it there, actually, there on the sleeve. It's actually a different thickness completely on the sleeve there, so that might not even count. I don't know if you can see that too, Alex, but
I can't,
yeah,
but maybe.
it might show up
But
in
yeah,
the
yeah,
recording.
I mean,
Yeah,
if you've got any of those, again, you'll kind of notice it when you find one, that you'll sort of see that it's just, it's like it's just weaving the pattern in, so it's not color.
it's hard to
Yeah,
tell
you've got
because
block
actually
color.
the
Yeah,
weave on the right and on the left of this shirt is different to the weave in the middle, and it's really
right.
not
Okay.
showing up on the camera. But I mean, I suddenly thought about it. Oh yeah, I've got one that does that. And I think the where the logos are on the away version of the one you're wearing, that would be like the jacquarding, and then the colors is the sublimating. Oh, interesting. See, this is why me and Tony need to do this, to learn things, to learn more things about the shirts.
And you,
And
you can kind of overlay them, because again, you can do like, the jacquard pattern, whatever you want to do, whatever kind of crazy design you do, and then you can, so you imagine like a basic white shirt, right? We'll weave like, I don't know, a United Red Devil in all over the place, so you'll be able to see this thing, and then we'll make it like a mad lightning bolt thing over the top. So you've got like two kind of levers of creativity that they can exist at the same time. It's yeah. So again, as a designers, you suddenly get both of these really in the 1980s, having previously been like, right, we might be able to sew a couple of strips of material on. You imagine it's just like, I don't know, going from seeing in 2D to 4D or something like that. It's such a big change. And,
yeah, actually,
you know,
I've just thought of another version. So it's one of the things I've seen on a couple of shirts is, and actually, I think they do it sometimes, like almost like an authenticity tag at the bottom of the shirt. They'll have like the logo in the corner. It's not. It's in the same. It's not like in a different color. It's just like they've weaved the material in that other direction, so that you get the logo appearing on the corner of the shirt, or a little design appearing on the corner of the shirt, so that it's looks like it's at a different level, or 3D or whatever.
yeah,
That's one of my favorite things in shirts, actually. Little details like that, when you spot them, when you buy a shirt and you just spot that in the background, you're like, oh, I didn't notice that on the shirt before. It's a nice little detail. All right, so yeah, I think that's you've given us a good broad overview of some of the history. Obviously, if people want to know more, your book is available. One of the books is available, Pretty Polly, which is, I guess, in all good bookstores. Is that what they normally say? That's what they normally say, right?
I think that's the
I know.
line, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if you are like looking for it, so it's Alex Ireland, like the country, and then Pretty Polly is with one L. So if you do it with two L's, you're going to end up with some women's tights. So
Oh yes,
maybe by
I did find
both.
that out as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
But yeah, on Amazon, on Waterstones, all those sort of places. Yeah.
Perfect. So I'm going to ask you now. If we're not going to, unfortunately, maybe in like if we're successful and in a couple of years, we get to like, I don't know, Ellis Platinum levels. If we had a pot of money and we could you give to buy any shirt you like, match worn or a historic shirt or anything, what would be the one shirt you would go for?
A couple of examples, I suppose, if I can be greedy with this. So, match worn. If we take the match worn
Yeah, yeah.
side, I mean, the greatest moment would be Ollie's goal in 1999 in
Okay.
Barcelona. To have that shirt would be incredible. Um, I think from the other side, Marcus Rashford as well. Him making his debut, scoring twice in the European
I was
game. Like
there.
he,
I was at that
right,
match.
okay, right.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I've only been to Old Trafford once, and it was that match, and no one in the stadium knew who he was because Rooney was pulled out like 5 minutes before the game. Rooney was on the team sheet and in the match program, and he got an injury in like warm up or something, and they brought out Rashford, who had never played for United before. Yeah, and it was against Midtjylland, I think.
yeah,
And
yeah.
United were losing as well. And Mitchell got an early goal and a penalty, which they missed. And then Rashford just like, I think you're right, he scored two. And there were, I think Mata scored or someone else scored. There were a couple other goals. Sorry, I've interrupted your, that. Yeah, that would have been a good shirt. So,
Yeah, well,
two fantastic United.
he's a local kid, and my wife taught him as a kid when he was at school. She was teaching him when he's like 8 or 9. So I'd kind of like kept a close eye on him, and
Yeah.
so obviously like seeing that, rushing home and seeing that he was about to make his debut. Like my son goes to school now, and so you think, wow, like a local kid, it's not often that happens. And yeah, making that debut, that would be a shirt to have. And then from the non-matchwear, match worn side, I mentioned I got those Borussia Dortmund shirts, and I think uh, there were a bunch that weren't commercially available. So I think any of those, so if you look at the 90 to 1994 Borussia Dortmund away shirts, they are really dramatic, like purples, turquoises, but were never commercially available. And so, yeah, you can see
I think it's like this one,
top
is it?
left. So that's the first of them, 1991, and yeah, they're absolute pain to get hold of because it's only kit stock. Yeah, and then you see
You go through them.
they're
There
even
you get,
more
oh, a
dramatic
nice,
than the
yeah, a nice
even
pink one. They
more
go for the
dramatic than
colours, aren't
the
they? In there early. Um, Yeah, there's some interesting ones in there. I mean, you'd have a nice little door. That must be the fourth one, 93, 94, a red one.
yeah, it's a bright like neon pink when you
Yeah, and then when you get to 94, 95, they've sort of gone. Yeah, and that's the one
yeah
that we looked
yeah
at earlier. So yeah, that neon pink, what's that? That's the 92, 93 one.
the
Um,
93, 90, yeah, so that purpley one's 92, 93, and then the pink
oh, sorry, I'm
is.
colorblind. I'm getting the colors wrong. I'm calling that one the pink one and that one a red one, but that's the pink one, right? So that's my fault
Yes,
with
the
my
really
colors.
kind of like highlighter pink is really like just like the homes. It's almost like somebody's got a bunch of highlighters. Right, what's our inspiration for this decade? It's like these Stabilo Boss.
Yeah, is that the back of the shirt, or is that a?
Yeah, so they did it in the home as well. They had angled numbers, so that you see the like that designs cut like that. So yeah, they would have the numbers at an angle, which another team, name escapes me, German team did it, but it's very unusual, I think, and they only did it for I think a season and pinned it off. Everybody got neck ache from leaning at an angle to see
Oh,
who
yeah,
was
you'd have
playing.
to read it sideways always. I think those are some great shirts. I hadn't actually gone back. I know like retro Dortmund is very very popular. Particularly I think this one is the popular. This is the home one, I assume, right?
Yeah,
That one from the time is very very popular. But I'd never seen the colors on the away ones, particularly these two. And I think was it the 92 one as well, which was sorry this one, the 91, 92 one, the blue as well. Really
if
interesting.
you hang around on eBay, that you can pick up most of the home ones at least, and some of the away, like you know below 100 quid. You just sort of got to keep an eye out kind of quite regularly, and they do pop up regularly. But yeah, some of the kind of away ones are a wee bit trickier to find.
They're real collectors items.
And the good thing is the fakes are absolutely crap. They're honestly, you could spot them 100 yards away. So it's one of the good ones. So, some of the United fakes are quite good. Some of the other teams, some of the Fiorentina ones, Nintendo Batistuta, but luckily they're they stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, I think it's certainly the. I mean, I was looking at a Fiorentina one yesterday, which is the Seven Up one, the controversial one, which we'll cover at some other point why that one's controversial.
Yeah.
But like, it was being sold quite cheap, but it was being sold as though it was genuine, and I thought it was but sealed, and I was like, no, this isn't genuine. And I had a look at it, and I was like, you can like, it was just like, but it was actually quite well done. But there was like one simple thing, and it was like the badge was wrong. I think the badge was like printed instead of sewn or something, and it should have been the other way around. I don't know which way around it should have been, because I was like looking at the actual genuine shirts, which are about 200 quid. But yeah,
There's
it's
always, I mean, the thing is, it's sort of like a cruel thing because once you've got these shirts, it's easy to spot. You know, like so, Umbro in the '90s, across sort of like '93 to '99 or so, had the same kind of blue label in it, and once you've got one, you can compare it. It's that's the thing, and same with the Kappa, like late '90s when they were massive. There's a series of small dots that are in the thing that never. There's always some kind of slight feature that never gets replicated, and there's an easy way to spot it, but it's picking that up. And once you know it, it's very
yeah,
easy, and it works 100% of the time. But you know, when you first come to it, it's just like telling the good from the bad is an impossible task.
yeah. I mean, the product codes are normally pretty good, but like sometimes you get or an older shirt or a manufacturer you're not sure with. So I've got. Let me see if I can grab it. Yeah, this one, for example, right? So Charlie is a Mexican manufacturer, relatively new
Yeah,
manufacturer. And I've got this whole collection of the Day of the Dead ones.
yeah, they're really
The other four I've got a genuine, and this one's a
right.
fake. But like, if I had to look at this for a long time to work out that it was a fake, and like it's really well done. Now the I noticed that the thickness is ever so slightly thinner on the badges. What was there? There were small things. Oh, like at the bottom, it was ever so slightly like off center on the thing. But there was one small thing, and it was just something so stupid. Like the label is like almost correct, but it was on the left side, and all the genuine ones, it's on the right hand side.
Right. Okay.
Uh, so it was like, right, why is this one on the left side and all the genuine ones on the right hand side? And then I noticed something else that confirmed to me that it was fake. But it was like, it was ever so subtle thing that I only had the other four shirts to compare it with that made me realize that it was a fake because it was so well done. But yeah, like you said, some of them like they do stick out like a sore thumb. I think like this material, this shiny material, is like really hard for them to do now
Yeah.
because I'm assuming it's like
So
I
what they
mean,
tend to do with these ones is they again this sublimation jacquard. So that's a jacquard. It's like woven in, and they will
yeah,
just print it in like a light grey or a light white or something like that. So again, if you're buying any of those '90s D Continental, Nike, Borussia Dortmund, in every one of them until 97, 98, there's like a pattern woven in. So if it's printed instead, it's like a little faded little graphic. You're definitely on the wrong path.
interesting. So that I mean that's useful. We are going to do an episode on identifying fake shirts, but there's so many different things, particularly with the older ones. Like I said, I've had real problems with this Juventus one just because the labels are different. Everything else about it looks absolutely fine, but the labels and like I said, the other one, the labels being different was something that keyed me off. But I think this one, you know, I bought it from a reputable seller who normally wouldn't sell fakes, and it's like, well, now I'm, you know, I'm on the fence as to maybe they just weren't sure themselves, and it's really hard with those older shirts that are pre-product code era if they're well done. But so that's good news. Like that's a good thing to look out for in these kind of jacquard old like Dortmund ones and stuff because these are popular, you know, on those
Yeah.
retro shirt sites and things now.
I mean,
Um,
even I say, you know, most of these sellers, you know, they are experts and they do the thing right 99.9% of the time. But you know, speaking to we did like stuff with people from classic football shirts, and even they, you know, they've sold fakes in the past unwittingly. Like everybody
yeah,
falls for it at once. You know, it's yeah,
yeah,
nobody's kind of perfect. It's so difficult and so many different things to look for. And as you say, there's like the Charlie, the Maber, the Kappa, the Umbro, the Nike, the Adidas. You've got to be kind of, I imagine, become expert in maybe 50 different brands and not just like I'm pretty confident about the '90s, but you know, '80s, noughts, you know, times before the
oh,
product code there as you. It's it must be a nightmare task.
I so one of the things me and Tony are doing is a mystery shirt for each other every month.
Right.
So it'll probably be next week or the week after we do that. And the first shirt I nearly got for Tony was a 1970s Atletico Bilbao shirt.
Right.
So no manufacturer, because it was before manufacturers, just a badge and the shirt, and that was it, and a number on the back I think it had. And I was like, but I have no way of determining if this is genuine or not. I mean, the shirt looked like it was from the 70s, that much, but the badge was just sort of stuck on, like sort of sewn on. But I imagine it probably would have been then if I looked at like other shirts from that period, and they were. The year I think I worked out it was, I couldn't find a picture of a shirt from that year, so it was like
Right.
near
Always
impossible for me
right.
to work out if it was a real shirt or not. There would have been almost no way for me to tell. Um, and we showed it on an earlier episode, the pictures of it, because it was on eBay and it went really cheap. If it was genuine, someone got an absolute bargain, and it was another reputable seller. But I don't know how they would have known and how anyone would have known, because the manufacturer was just some. I don't even think the manufacturer exists anymore. Whoever made the Bilbao shirt, so it's like really really tough. Even small things like the badges had changed over time. And it was just hard to tell. It could have been something they wore like you said, they only had the badge on for the cups in some of the early
Yeah.
games. So it could have just been, it could have been made for a cup. I didn't even know if they would have been selling commercial shirts there. Because also what happened in the UK might not have been what happened in Spain, or, Bilbao was a very traditional club. They'll only hire Basque players. I don't know how much that extends to their commercial arm, but it was certainly a tough one to tell, but I didn't end up getting it. It would have been an
Yeah.
interesting first shirt.
I mean, the Spain sort of tended, in the other side, England, the English league tended to be quite towards the forefront of a lot of these kind of innovations and sponsors and stuff coming in. And actually, I think it wasn't a massive amount behind, but maybe 5-6 years behind in Spain, and things like getting squad numbers and stuff like that, and kind of replicas took a bit longer to come in. So yeah, it definitely wouldn't have been. I don't think it would have been a 70s one. Would have been like a replica shirt. You're definitely looking, if it was a genuine one, a team kit sort of kit room type stock type of thing.
I know. So I think I worked out it was probably 76, but I mean, it could have just been something that someone knocked up as a fan as well. It could have been some homebrew thing.
Yeah.
I think it was probably from the 70s, looking at like the style of the shirt, the fading, a little bit of like the material and the label. It was in very good condition, but there was a certain there's a certain style to the fabric and things that you can tell with some of these shirts. I mean, that's something that's evolved over time is the fabric in shirts, and I'm conscious of the time, so I don't want to bring it up too much now. But we did mention it earlier on. So I'm going to ask you two more things. So the first thing then is your Room 101. If you were able to put anything about football shirts, football shirt culture, football shirt collecting, or a particular football shirt into Room 101 to ban it from football forever, Alex, what would it be?
Base layers. No doubt.
Here you go, base layers. Okay, go ahead. Why base layers? We might be able to guess why based on your collection.
Yeah, just the kind of like the death of the long sleeve shirt. That you look now, and really, it's like a handful of clubs make long sleeve shirts available. Most of the big Italian clubs, they don't make any versions available, and it's this thing that is the reason why that players tend to, if it is cold, they'll wear the base layer instead. So yeah, ban them, bring back long sleeves.
I think I said to you before. I think someone spoke about it. Was Chiellini? I think said it in the Ellis Platten video. I think he said he got asked why he doesn't wear long sleeves anymore. He said he's not allowed. They're not allowed to wear the long sleeves. They only get given the short sleeve, and they have to wear a base layer if they want to wear something underneath. So the long sleeves aren't produced anymore, which is really interesting. Actually, Charlie, the Mexican manufacturer, do make long sleeves because they've got some long sleeves of theirs, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, for the most part,
yeah. So like lucky as a United fan, you can get all three shirts, and you can get them in authentic as well as long sleeves. Like even Arsenal, who've been really well provided for by Adidas, the third shirt for this season, which may come on to, is not available as a long sleeve authentic shirt, which is an absolute crying shame, because I would have been sorely tempted to have kind of crossed the divide and bought that because I
Ooh,
think it's so
that's something.
beautiful.
If a shirt convinces you to buy, as a Man United fan, if an Arsenal shirt has almost convinced you,
Well,
that
our
would have been
rivals
very
at the
good.
moment are increasingly looking more like Luton and Bournemouth than Arsenal and Liverpool. So
Yeah. Although everyone was losing this weekend, or struggling this weekend, all the big teams struggling. Yeah, so yeah, definitely long. So you want more long sleeve shirts back in the game. Are they still popular in Germany or Italy? Many teams still wearing the long sleeve.
trying to think. I think Bayern have had them. I know Borussia Dortmund haven't had them for years, maybe a decade or so. So some teams have them still in Germany. Um, but yes, and it's even within teams. I think it's vanishing. So even if you look at Manchester United, I think there's only Marcus Rashford tends to wear them. Rafael Varane, but there's only even when they are available, and even the depths of the Mancunian winter, there's only sort of a handful that actually put them on.
I'd imagine it's only the big teams who manage to get. Although some teams just wear template shirts, you would have thought teams that get templates, you should be able to buy them. Like, if the team just gets this year's Nike template in a pretty standard color, like I
Yeah.
don't know why Nike can't produce that in a long sleeve. Is it one manufacturer more than another? Nike, Man United is Adidas, or are they Nike right now?
So I think there's
Adidas.
more of Adidas that have survived. I think Puma are pretty bad because I think about trying to look. Manchester City, different. Borussia Dortmund don't. So I think Adidas are the ones who are really keeping it alive out of the big three. I don't think Umbro do. So yeah, it's definitely a kind of dying art, and I think especially as like I just think it's not a jersey, like it's kind of half a shirt. It's I don't know,
Yeah,
whenever
yeah.
I played Sunday League and played for the Dog and Duck, we always had like long sleeve shirts. It kind of feels very much like that's what you do.
See, well, maybe because I play indoor football, I quite like a short sleeve. Although this time of year, I'm increasingly wearing long sleeve shirts and like training. They're like I've been wearing these training jackets the last few days that are like they're like fleeced on the inside. They're really nice and really warm. So but I imagine if you're playing outside, particularly in the winter, a long sleeve would be much nicer.
And I've also just turned 40, so there is an element of just being a grumpy old man, and modern life has run. And so maybe a simpler explanation for it.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough. All right, so we're gonna put base layers into our room
Thank
101,
you.
joining many other things. All right, so one final thing, which is it's December. We're doing our nominations for shirt of the year. We're asking our guests for one. Me and Tony gave ours also last week, and then so instead this week I'm going to bring up a viewer suggestion to stick into the shirts of the year nominations, and then we're going to have an episode at the end of the year that we vote on, and the viewers will vote on to decide which shirt is our shirt of the year. So any shirt that's been released in 2023, so it can be from last season, but it has to have been released after New Year. So, for example, the Napoli special shirts. Not that you would want to nominate any of them, but just as an example. So, what's your nomination for the shirt of the year? And I think you already alluded to
Yeah, I
it.
kind of alluded to it in the last spoilered it, but it's the again shirt of arrival, Arsenal's third shirt for this season. So it's based on I think 1982-83 season when they had a Northern Irish manager, and they had this green shirt with the kind of navy details. And actually, it wasn't very successful because they lost the first few games, or they had a bad record in it when they played, and so it wasn't really a popular thing for fans. But there's a couple of details. I mean, so there's a lot of bad retro shirts. It's such an easy way for designers to just have right. We've let's just go through the archives, pick a retro shirt, and do kind of. It feels sometimes like a rushed version of it, but this seems like really carefully done. It's quite simple, but I do really like the Canon graphic. So Manchester United, we had the Red Devil graphic for the first time as an alternative on our white or cream third shirt, rather than having the Manchester United crest. And they've done this the same with the Arsenal for a couple of years, and it's been done in the past as well. I think it's nice. It's an element of the club's culture and so on. So that's a nice detail. And then you just see, so on the collar, you see the AFC. You might just be able to see it. Yeah, and it's a similar kind of style to this 82, 83, I think it was. So it's like a really subtle homage. Oh, no, sorry. The AFC is like 90 or so is the reference to the collars there. But it just works. It just looks simple. It looks classy. Like it takes from the club's history, but does it in like it makes it into something new. It seems thoughtful. If you see the player version, there's a nice jacquard running through it. Yeah, just it works. I wish we'd have had one like that.
I'll see if I can find the player issue one. Here we go, authentic. I think this is the right one. Yeah, you can just about see the dashes across, which I think is the
Yeah,
Roma kit has the same jacquarding in it this season. That's sort of like little dashes across. But yeah, it's nice. I like that it's sewn on the collar there. The AFC. It's a shame
yeah.
the badges, or that might just be a player issue one. I don't know if on the other one the badge is sewn on. Let's have a look. I'm curious now. Or is it this new style of like the rubbery? I can't get. It was not giving me a close enough look to see if it's sewn on. It doesn't look like it's sewn on, but I think it's really nice. I like if it's the third shirt, it doesn't matter too much. They've gone out there with their second shirt, with their away shirt, so it's not like they've produced an uninspired shirt. And actually, the first shirt this season for Arsenal, I think there's some nice details in that, even if they did mess them up at the start of the year with the invincible season
Yeah,
down the
yeah.
inside. I think that's a good shirt. I like the color's really nice as well. It doesn't like immediately make you think Arsenal necessarily.
No, again,
Obviously
I
it's
think
one
if you
they've
look,
won
it's
before.
it's like Arsenal. Is it 82, 83 away? I
Sorry,
think that
Arsenal
it kind of comes
82,
from, and
Arsenal 1982 away shirt. Yeah, that's the one, right?
yeah.
Is it that one?
So yeah, it's
Although I don't know why
yeah. I
you'd get
think
it with bird camp on the back. That doesn't make any sense.
uh,
But yeah, actually, that's interesting. The cannon's going the other way there, but yes, that must be the
it's,
one.
it's starting with this kind of colorway as the start, but you've not just copied it. You've like added something to it. It's
Hmm.
yeah, it's kind of, and that was an Umbro shirt originally, but obviously with
Yes, they
the
can't copy it
I think
directly.
maybe sponsor. So yeah, I just think it's really really done. And again, like in long sleeves, I think it looks even better. Although you couldn't get that in the
Which one had the detail on the collar? Which
so
one did you say?
I think is it maybe it's a year before. So it's definitely around sort of 1990. Let's see whether I can do it on my side.
I mean, you can
Fancy
see here,
top.
even this Adidas one here, this '89 one, like it's not the color, but it's the elements of this one as well. With the Adidas have taken it on, and then you've got obviously the three stripe on the sleeves, where they've taken over from Umbro there.
So it's 1991 home shirt.
Oh, the home shirt.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, because the
And
away is the
192.
bruised banana there.
Yeah.
Um, the
So
90,
90
yeah,
to
there it
92.
is.
Yeah.
There, I can see it there.
But yeah, nice sort of subtle detail, like part of the club's history. You kind of, it's sort of like retro done right. You take a subtle bit, it's genuine. You've done something new with it. Yeah, I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, that's going up into the big pool of nominations, and we'll put them out on Twitter and on YouTube for people to vote on which ones make it to the final. The one which we got sent was one of the ones I've picked out. One of the ones from the Discord. If anyone wants to join the Discord, the description's down in the link below. Actually, I couldn't find the home shirt, but and it took me a while to find this shirt online. But it's San Diego Aztecs, San Diego State Aztec, which I assume is I have to log in. It won't let me. Which I assume is the university team. But you can just about make out the shirt here. I couldn't find. Here we go. It won't give me like a full resolution version, but it's like it's actually, I think it's very much the, if you remember the Mexico
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
1996, and it's got like that Aztec or
Yeah.
Mayan. It must be Mayan, actually, thinking about it. If it's trying to think about my Latin American history here, but like that design that goes across it, and it's the same, but like in a different, in two different colors. I'll see if I can find the. Let's see if this will open. Here we go. This is the one that someone sent in to us as a it was in a phoning. So I was trying to find a version, but in those colors, I think it's really interesting. It's got "Empty the Tank" written into the, which it must be like the university, uh, logo.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that a university is able to get to, and that's, I guess that's a result of the American collegiate system of sports, and that they've got this for the soccer team, for the football team. So yeah, I think that's an interesting one. I think that will definitely inspired by that old Mexico shirt. That will go into our shirt of the year nominations as well. Right, I think all that's left for us to do is, Alex, where can people find you? Where can people find more about what you do, your books, etc.?
Yeah, so I'm on, made it easy because I've got the same handle. So it's at Alex D Ireland, Ireland, like the country. On Twitter, I tend to talk about kit history, kit news, things like that. And Instagram is just a store for the photos of my collection. So if you like kind of 90s long sleeve, then you'll be like a pig in muck.
Oh, I'm gonna have to. I'm not good enough with Instagram. I need to get on myself onto Instagram more often and put my shirt pictures up there and things, and get following some people. So I think that's my next step of what I need to do in sorting out, being my online shirt collection presence. Okay, good. And the book, just a reminder, the book is Pretty Polly: 100 Years of Football Shirts. I'm pretty sure I've got that right with the title.
You've got it's sort
All
of like a
good
portmanteau
bookstores.
of the two. Yeah, so it's
It's
yeah, the history of the football shirt, but it's
History of the Football Shirt. There we go.
that's it. Yeah.
And you've got another one hopefully out this year. All things
Yeah,
go
so
well.
Double Diamond, 100 Years of Umbro will be coming out hopefully on Umbro's 100th birthday in the end of May. So that's been a
I'm
lot of
going to
fun to do.
follow up question there. What did they
Yeah.
start with? What did they first make? What, like, a lot of these companies don't start with what they end up doing. What's like
So
Umbro's first?
yeah, they started as a sportswear firm, but kind of
Oh, they did.
actually working out of Humphreys, who's the guy who started it when he was about 20 or so. He was out of his parents' cupboard in a pub they owned, and they started making football kits. And then only a decade later, both the teams, City and Portsmouth, were wearing it in the FA Cup final. So kind of a quite rapid ascent from his parents' back cupboard.
1938, I think, must be right.
34 final, yeah.
Oh,
Was Portsmouth
Portsmouth
City, yeah.
lost it then. I think we lost it. I'm a Portsmouth
Right.
fan.
Okay,
So
okay.
I know we won 38. We've only won it twice, and we won
Right,
38 because we held it for we got the record for holding the FA Cup for the longest
right,
period.
okay.
Not
Yeah.
because we kept winning it, for other
I think
reasons.
you don't need to mention the caveat. That's
No, yeah, there's an asterisk. Anyway, yeah. Thank you very much, Alex. I mean, that's been fascinating. Like, hopefully, we can, when Tony's back, we'll get you in again, and we'll have further chats about football history if you don't mind. If anyone wants to follow the show, obviously the Discord is down is below. Footy Shirt Sock on Twitter, because it doesn't let us do all the characters, and on TikTok as well. Football Shirt Social on YouTube, but I'd imagine you're already here. You've already found it, so hit the subscribe button. If you want to find me, I'm Somajo, or Somajo Football, don't remember, on YouTube, and Somajo FM on Twitter. Thank you very much again, Alex. It's been a fascinating talk. And see you all next time. Thank you. Bye.
thanks.